But I think I like being here. I think I like what is happening in this university. And the reason I really agreed to come is really the whole idea that the older people are, is the more wiser they are on issues. And this is one particular issue that I haven't thought much about, this diversity. And I thought it's interesting, but it's too difficult at this stage of my life to begin to think about it. And I agreed because I thought the dialogue is going to be interesting. And I thought, since I am a mature person, very mature, it's always good that you come to a company of younger people, because they say they give you the intellectual stimulation which you need, which doesn't happen very much if you are retired, I can assure you on that. And I'm hoping that this university will keep to this new tradition of access to people on ordinary, what I call the ordinary social and political issues that our nation is battling with. And the kind of contribution you are making to that, because out there as NGOs, we do not have experts on research. We are people who identify the need as we see it, as we experience it. And as we begin to work on it, we just don't have the capacity, nor the people, the expertise, the academics to help us with the research that they need, so that there is some kind of science in the kind of thing we're doing. And so I've had an opportunity to come here for those kinds of activities. And I appreciate it very, very much, and I hope you'll keep to that tradition. How I wish, Chair, you had the flexibility that instead of another speech, you just enter into a dialogue about a number of exciting things he said. Anyway, it's wonderful to be here. Also, I had to come because Desmond Tutu, as you know, is a retired general secretary, and he has done nice things for me. So I owe a lot of things to him as a person. One of them is to change the tradition on the lack of the tolerance of the South African Council of Churches, where they had a tradition that they will only employ ordained people, which really excluded many of us women, because many of us at that time were not ordained, so there was no possibility. And it was people like him who were courageous enough, who felt that they should take the risk of taking the women who are not ordained. You might probably do just as well, even if you are not ordained. So I owe a lot to him and many more other things. So let's move on that. I think that it is a time now when many South Africans, I don't know when I say many, I always worry about that term, many, are gearing themselves for this great commemoration that is coming on of the 20 years of freedom and democracy. Needless to say that the debate over the possibilities of democracy within cultural diversity, as it appears, is the globalized idea. And it's debated everywhere globally, whether you are going to Switzerland or you are in France or in many of those countries that are struggling with these issues, or for that matter within the continent itself of Africa. It's become something that is of great interest to social scientists. It's also of great interest to political activists, because you are aware that the global community is supposed to be open to all of us, that we travel around the world, we accept each other, we accept each other's religion, but I think the experience, as you will probably know, is not always like that, where you draw the two, that we must have trade together, we work together, we all belong to the same world, we exchange our resources. But when it comes to things that are critical on the acceptance in all these, is really a challenge to many countries. And the diversity in South Africa is exciting, but I think those of you who had an experience, which I share, with many people, had to do with the attitude of the United Kingdom towards the issue of visa. I have to share this story with you because we are so proud of this diversity, the people of the great rainbow nation. And they decided in England, they're real tired of this global nation because they can't tell. And this officer says, I say, why are you all here? They are standing as we leave the plane, the aircraft. A lot of the immigration officers are here. And he says to me, the problem with you people from South Africa is that you represent every color, and color of the hair, listen to color of the hair, which doesn't mean that, and every kind of eyes. You know, some of us don't know the difference between the brown eyes. You know that, we don't know. And said, South Africans come, you never know whether you're going to see someone who resembles the people of Central Europe, and I was trying Central Europe, or the Nordic countries. You know those people, Nordic countries. Or you represent all the shades of the people coming from the Arab world, or you represent all the shades of Africa. He says you have 5 shades of black people, and that's why we have to be here, because many of the passports you carry are forged passports. So that's what our diversity has earned us. And so now, these were a very good British colony, and were greatly loved as a Commonwealth partner. We have to pay a lot of money if you want a visa and you want to go to England. So that's the wonderful price of our diversity, which is not always appreciated. That was just by the way, Chair of the... So I just wanted to share with you that the national government itself, through the Department of Arts and Culture, I am part of that team, is putting up a big campaign, which they refer to as a campaign on social cohesion. And when you read that documentation, you begin to see what is it, the social cohesion and the diversity. Where do you draw the difference? And maybe you will go in through those things. And then what the government says, which I thought this campaign they are on, that this is going to be a successful campaign that will reach millions of South Africans. Now, that would be an interesting thing. Who is there to celebrate these 20 years? And what are we as a community of South Africa celebrating together, the common thing that in these 20 years has been there for all of us? And this is what they are saying, that the government recognizes that social cohesion, national identity, and social reintegration are critical for nation building, poverty eradication, social justice, and sustainable human socio-economic development, close of quote. Well, and I'm saying that this is really a time for this country, for South Africa, that we are talking about all these things. And I think it's quite appropriate that you are on this audit, because it's probably going to assist people as they begin to talk about the future. It's a time for South Africa when, as you know, they are preparing for the elections, which are taking place in 2014, and this time a variety of the figures I had to check in the car with Ian when we were coming, that there are 212 political parties that have registered. And so that shows you the diversity also of ideas that are coming from all these manifestos that you will all be listening to. They say there will probably at least 35 to 40 parties who will actually be campaigning. So people of South Africa, with your diversity, listen with great care. There are great things coming to you. Listen to what they say. As we as South Africans are beginning to be mindful also that, yes, indeed, we've accomplished a number of things, I think, even through our own diversity, with all its limitations, I'm sure. We have the question of color, which we talk less about in this country. We talk less maybe about the creed, maybe at times less about the culture, but those are the things that the nation is, in an obvious way, is struggling with. I mean, if you look at all the things that happen around us, whether you are talking about the BEE, whether you are talking about the affirmative action, those are some of the things in which the nation is struggling on. Yes, there are many things that have happened. You will see the statistics of government that there is drinking water in many areas of the country where certainly we are not able to meet the time frame on these things. There are many South Africans who have shelter. I am not talking about the kind of shelter, that is another debate, but they've never had. And of course, we are all very proud of ourselves about this constitution. We say we have the best constitution in the world, which is supposed to protect and safeguard the rights that include the women, vulnerable communities, women, the children, and the minorities. The political space, indeed, I think has opened up in our country. We are proud of our institutions that we have. We are really proud that there is a growth, small though it might be, of the new democratic norms and values that are slowly permeating in our society. Maybe not probably to the speed that the people would like, but things are beginning to happen. I mean, as demonstrated, I think, for the first time by the National Development Plan. I would like to call it a plan, though sometimes, as I speak as a layperson, I think it's a wish list, but I will not debate that. But the country is trying. It continues to churn out new ideas that are coming from South Africans, and we have endless strategic visions, strategic plan. This terminology, every corner you turn, strategic. And I used to say to my colleague, we didn't use that term, by the way, you know, folks, 20 years ago, but we're running Chair, we need a strategic plan, another one. And we are into that culture. And I think we should not be cynical about it, because it is a culture in which people are seriously engaging. What is the future? What are we going to do? How can we begin to improve on the things we do? Notwithstanding all these wonderful things that have happened and the great ideas that we bring as a nation, there are challenges. Many, maybe too many challenges, and I think we are excited about the successes, but the institutionalization that is happening, and you listen to Parliament, it's exciting, everybody's debating, you can go through, the list is long. But let's look at the concern that we have. And the concern that we have is the issues of the violence in our country. And we wonder whether the society has always been here. Prior to the elections of 1994, we had the worst violence ever known prior to elections. If you look at the statistics, which show that, in fact, there were more people in this country who died from 1989-90, just after President Mandela was released, prior to 1994. Yes, we have those large figures, but in fact, there must be something in our tradition that we need to look at. I will not go into it, I'm sure. What are the root causes? Why is it that there's so much violence against women? Why so much violence against our own children? Is this something that is peculiar? Or are we not able to handle the new society that we have? Of course, we have problems of income inequalities, high levels of unemployment, deepening poverty. And of course, AIVH are also starting to be grossly contemptuous, integrity, of the new way people look at illness, peculiar illness, where you have South Africans, I'm told, no one has the numbers, that people would rather not take treatment because when they go for testing, they might find that they are improving, and so they will be deprived of the grant. There's something peculiar in society. I don't know. No one has done any research on this, whether in fact it is just stories people tell, that people are making the sacrifice of their lives for money. So you'd rather not take these tablets you are given, because when you go back for the next test, isn't there something? And I just want to mention in that context perhaps something which I thought I'll mention since I have my friend here to talk about this organization of which I am part of and very proud to be. It's called the Heartlines. I'm looking at a piece of paper you gave me, but I'll talk about it. The Heartlines, I think, with these many NGOs in South Africa and many institutions who are really looking into those things that are a challenge to our society, they are looking into how our attitude as South Africans to money. I'm excited about this study, and they say there's nothing for mahala. And tonight they are launching a premiere, and she tells me they have over 900 people who are attending, which is very unusual. And the cinema can only hold 500, so I don't know what will they do. But this is something I think for South Africans, we of my generation often say maybe there is something about our materialism, whether it is of every culture and group we do not know, whether it is peculiar to a particular group, the materialism and the attitude that for money you will do anything. And at times I say, in the churches where we belong as women's movements, what is it that we are worshipping? The altars of the rand, maybe the altars of the dollar. Yes, money is important, but I think that this is one of the concerns, and I'm not surprised that there is such a response that has come from people, because I think this is one of the challenges in our own community and with our own people, the money, the money, the money. Hey, I don't know where you kids are used to money, because your parents grew up under apartheid. We had no money. And as we I'm saying to those of you who don't understand, I say, I don't know why our kids love money so much, because we, their mothers and grandmothers, never had money. And the fathers of those age, my age group, used to hide the money purse. When it's shown, you say to your parent, please, can I have so much money? And before your dad gives you the money, he turns around so that you don't see the money. You mustn't know how much money he has in the pocket. Now, you don't belong to that generation. You surely know too much about money, but that's on a lighter note. It is with no doubt, ladies and gentlemen, that, as it has been mentioned before, that the so-called African exceptionalism, which was attached to South Africa, we had so much admiration. Everybody loves Mandela, Mandela, Mandela. And everywhere you traveled in the world, we were exceptions. We have done this so well, we've done this so well. And those of us who were running elections were getting so many awards and awards. I just want to tell you, those who travel around, that it is waning. That is waning. And so when you talk about this nation and the excitement of the diversity and how the world sees us, and I want to say, as you look into this new issue of the diversity itself is being threatened, precisely by that. Because it's threatened because of the issues that are of a political and economic development. There is a relationship and a correlation between the diversity of us as a nation and the impact of all these other issues. And this is a threat to the kinds of things that we embrace when we talk about diversity. Furthermore, as apartheid structures have not disappeared completely from our lives, we still, for most of the part, live in different groupings. Yes, we do, one group. And we still exhibit signs of xenophobia. I think there's something we need to talk. Still, we do not trust people of other races. This is a given. Still assert attitudes of superiority. We succumb to also to feelings of inferiority that are, either we become very arrogant because that is a defense mechanism. You have to do that when you feel insecure. Or extremely defensive about the particular grouping of which you are. And then there is also something in this diversity. There's still a lot of patronizing that goes on with it. Those who patronize and those who are being patronized. And I'm sure the women who are here will probably know, oh, so we have a woman on our board. Oh, isn't that wonderful? And then if you are black, it's an added thing. We are so delighted you are a member of our board. And then if you are old, it helps. So you have three things that you bring. So, you know, and people who do this are not aware, in fact. They think they're being nice to you, that, you know, this nice old lady is around us. But that's a reality, and at times I have to be nice. And now the latest one I get, which I want to share with you, oh, you don't look your age, isn't it wonderful? So you don't win on those things. That's on a lighter note. But there is a tendency, which I have to say, which we have to look on diversity. And that is this doubt we have about the capabilities of certain groupings. We have to deal with that because you cannot set certain standards. And at times, one has to be careful because I hear in the black circles that if you want things done quickly, ask Umlungu will do it. The white will do it. Because, you know, those blacks are going to be late in their bus, they don't keep time. Now watch that, watch those remarks. because they are the remarks really of attitudes. And if we are embracing each other, why do you say you put those, you know they'll turn on time, and then the blacks won't turn up? But I'll say more on those things, but they are for real. I might be saying them in this manner of joking about them, but they are real in terms of our day-to-day experience. And unless we can begin in South Africa, sir, to go back to the board, I say it in the church because that's the institution I'm part of, to begin to talk about racism and not pretend, which is happening in my institution in the church, that we now belong to this wonderful community. You know, now everything is working out so well. Apartheid is over. And so racism has disappeared. I think that in order that we deal with these things, we have to deal with those things that are very uncomfortable in our diversity. Because if we pretend and try to cover issues that embarrass us, and issues of affirmative action have to be taken seriously. I was listening one of these many meetings I attend, the new formula they have on the BEE. I won't go into that. But those of you who are in the BEE world, look at the new formula. I think women is going to leave you out, my daughters, if you don't look sharp and study that carefully. It's going to go out to the public, and you are the only ones who can attack it. You will be forgotten forever, my daughters and granddaughters, if you want to be in the world of BEE. That is just my little one as I pass on. I read in the Sunday Times a very interesting comment which relates to what I have also made reference to. And that is the comment made by Paulos Zulu. Paulos Zulu is one of the retired professors from KwaZulu-Natal and has been very active. We worked together and was helpful in the research with the issues of violence in KwaZulu-Natal. And he is talking of a summit, and I think this is interesting to come. He talks about the probability and unanimity of thinking amongst political, religious, and civil society religions concerning a need for moral regeneration in this country. This is not the area where we're talking about morality and talking about ethics. But unfortunately, there is a relationship on diversity because we have to embrace somehow some standards on our ethics and morality. And in this article he talks about, he is actually even saying that the private sector, the government and others, maybe needs to talk about this thing because there is no way in which as a nation together we talk about the kind of corruption that we are facing in our country. And we set up institution here and there, another institution there to monitor it. I think that's what he is putting ahead. And he goes on to say, I quote, Mandela bequeathed to us an great legacy of moral integrity and selfless service which has been squandered in the government and both in the private sector, as we see also the fraud in our own country. There is also a concern, which I am talking about in general, but I think maybe we'll talk about this one, which is related to the problems our country is facing. There are people who are beginning to feel that the black elite are really the people who are benefiting within this community, wonderful community of the people, you know, I refer to them who are the people of God. Some refer to us as the rainbow people. That the black elite, there is an expression they use, they are the people, they say they eat the money, they're eating the money. This is an expression I've heard when I travel for elections as I go to Kenya and to Ghana, that this is what the elite of the continent is after. There is a concern in our country, I can never emphasize it, about the service delivery. The poor industrial growth at times, I don't know, I think those in business will talk about it. The poor educational systems, I'm not referring to you, I'm talking about what is happening in many of our schools. And the poor productivity. And so these are the challenges. It is this context I talk about that you are researching. It's a context you know, but it's a reality of that, which is, And so this conference really has embarked on this very critical audit, and I want to compliment you for that. And it is necessary that as many South Africans as possible should begin to participate. I do not know anything about your disciplines. I don't belong to it. Whether this research you do is a participatory research or it is around the university. Because I think it will benefit all of us in the process of the research and participation to be involved so that we can deal with the realities and deal with experience also of people. And that is the desirable thing for the future of South Africa. I find it essential to point that in political theory, the question of political governance in cultural diverse societies has, over the past decade, been extensively discussed in controversies surrounding the politics of cultural recognition and multicultural citizenship. I'm sure there are many examples of this. I won't go into that. You are aware of the issues that many of our countries in the continent face, the appointment of people in the cabinet in many countries. That's what I'm talking about, issues of governance. What culture, what language do you speak? From which party do you belong? You know that the diversity gets even more complex every time you do. And these are the new things that are, they are not only our debates here in South Africa, but they are the multicultural citizenship. Did any of you read the problem of a minister who has been appointed, I think it's in France, a black woman coming from Italy, yes. And you see it's understandable, you know, that constitutionally it is correct. But the societies are struggling with this kind of thing, whether you'll have an African woman who sits in parliament. She's not the only one. There are quite a few around those countries. So those are some of the things that the countries are battling with as they talk about the new united countries that are struggling this. They are battling with all those issues. And then you have, of course, the constitutions in the world that go out of their way to make accommodation for the diversity. Those constitutions are a reality because people have to struggle to find way. I think those of you who are familiar, for instance, with the tradition in India will appreciate why you have those institutions that protect the rights of the minority. Because unless you make those efforts in the Constitution, because the constitutions are more binding rather than the statements. These are the things that, and so what you were talking about is, I have it here, is that our Bill of Rights, that our own Bill of Rights have to find an expression in our daily lives. I want to support that, which you already made a reference to. The cultural democracy has become a political challenge throughout the world, as I've already indexed, and there are many factors around it. And the one factor I am referring to, which is affecting us in South Africa, is the high level of migration in this country. And this is going to be a challenge, and it's not going to change. If you speak to people from other countries in the continent who are here and those who have not come, I just want to assure you, future South Africans, there is going to be no change, because the continent of Africa is a continent of poverty. And so we are seeking food scarcity, scarcity of everything. And so this will always be there, and we may just as well, for your sakes of the future, be able to deal with it to the best of your ability. The major destination is going to be South Africa, of any refugees that will come. Not only the refugees of the past. And I hope the society will be prepared for that and how you are able to do it. Yes, there are models in other parts of the world, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with, and some studies have been done on this, how many countries are dealing with these things. I won't go into that. But the reality of xenophobia is for real. I lived in Switzerland for 21 years. And finally, I applied to be a citizen. I hope in my book I will have a chapter. When you try to become a citizen of that country, it's something else. You do the application after 12 years. And one of the things they do, which is just for your amusement, I won't talk about the serious ones, my bad French and all that. They check how clean you are. You know the Swiss are clean. So these inspectors come to your house to be sure that you can be part of this community and be acceptable. There are certain standards. They come to your house unexpected to check your bin, whether you're using the right color of the plastic, for putting in your rubbish. That's the first thing they check. They go to the person who checks your car, because normally there you have one garage person who checks your car. In fact, whether you bash your car around too much, you must be a very bad driver. And really, they check on you like me. I was then, I'm sorry, I said I was then single. I've forgotten that I have never married. They came to my home to check with my neighbors whether, in fact, I am a virtuous single lady, whether I had things. Now, this might seem, no, it's serious. The inspectors do this. They kept coming to my house. They wouldn't find me, and finally, they showed up in the office where I worked. Oh, my desk, if only they had told me. And then I'd arrived that morning, and I had my bags, and I put them on the chair, and then I had my coat. When you come from a journey, and everything is everywhere, and these guys, they knock. There are two of them. Unexpected. And then, of course, I say to them in English, can I help you? Who are you? I'd forgotten I'd applied for citizenship, because I should have been more polite and spoken in French, but I forgot all that. And then they told me they are inspectors. They were just coming to check. They've been coming to my home, but they must see my working environment. And the inspectors start walking around. And so if you want to become, part of a society, if you want to be part of this, there are many things and habits that as a group in South Africa we have to. And this is a country that runs itself on languages. I will say something on that on another day. But to come back to this subject is that we need now, all of us, that we help each other as South Africans through your studies that you will do, but also through a continuation of what has already been started, a dialogue with people in the community as this university has, because this is really a struggle, not only a struggle for South Africa, because we might also as South Africans give a model to other countries who are struggling with the same issues on how you can, in fact, be positive about the kind of diversity that we have, since we are considered to be one of the countries in the world where you have a lot of varied races, varied religions, and varied people coming from all over the world there in this part of the world. And for people who are proud to be South Africans. And it is my hope to the members of the trust that you will do this work, and my best wishes to you, and to say continue. It is indeed a struggle of change. The 20 years is a very short time in terms of building history, so we mustn't despair. It is be that we are just going through those times that every nation goes through, and the things will work out for the best, but it is a challenge to all of us also as individuals. Thank you for inviting me to be part of this.